Welcome all of you to the InnoFact Show Asia Pacific 2021. We are all glad to have you on board, and also our speakers. I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Ms. Heidi Gempel, who's with us today, and she'll talk about the future of hospitality and give out her insights. I would just like to take a minute to introduce her. That Heidi Gempel, in her pursuit to assist the hoteliers and owners in optimizing the hotel performance and creating some amazingly extravagant and personalized guest experiences. Heidi has researched, studied, practiced, and applied cutting-edge revenue, marketing, and sales strategies for the hospitality industry. The keys Heidi will be sharing with you today have been developed and refined over the last decade with her clients across the Asia Pacific region, so that you today can be empowered and educated as you attend this event. Heidi is also representing HSMAI Asia Pacific this morning. She has been the facilitator for the HSMAI Asia Pacific Revenue Management Advisory Board since it first started in 2014. HSMAI is the largest and most active hospitality sales and marketing association in the world. HSMAI is a 90-year new professional non-profit association with over 7,000 members in 41 countries, and also is committed to growing business for hotels and their partners, and is the industry's leading advocate for intelligent, sustainable hotel revenue growth. The association provides hotel professionals and their partners with industry-wide recognized certification, tools, trainings, insights, and expertise to fuel sales, inspiring marketing, optimize revenue, and facilitate conversations that shape the industry. So please get ready to meet Heidi Campbell, and welcome to the stage, Heidi Gempel. Over to you now.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be here this morning and to open up this conference with a keynote to all of you. So unfortunately, the chat box is not working. That is what we would usually use to get to know you a little bit better. So I hope that as you join from across the Asia Pacific region and beyond, I understand there's we've had registrations from all the way from America and even Europe and the Middle East. So as you join us this morning and over these next 2 days, welcome to this event. So I'm going to be sharing with you 3 key points. Now, obviously, there are more key points in this process of, for successful hospitality going forward. But I really would want to share 3 of a 5-step process that really stood out for us over these last decades in working with our clients on how to improve and how to really make the hospitality future-proof and successful for the future. So before we go into this, I want to spend a few moments just talking about and reminding us about some of the key issues that we are facing as an industry. I think it's really important to set it in context. These issues were with us well before the pandemic. It has not just happened in this last 18 months, but the pandemic over the last few 18, 20 months now really has amplified these issues even more so. So I have 3 issues that I'll share with you. And the first one that I think is of absolute importance is the changing customer needs that we have. This pandemic has changed us all. We've all been changed. I mean, your behavior has changed. The way you interact has changed. The way we do work have changed. The way we have this conference has changed. Usually I would stand in front on a podium and be talking to you and seeing you face to face. Now I have this eye to lens contact with you and hopefully still am able to reach you, but we have changed. The point is that we have changed. And so have our guests and so have our customers. Their expectation has changed, even more so in these last 18 months. So what we have found is that it's really important for us as hoteliers to get to know our customers, to understand who they are and why they make decisions the way they do. So it's something that we have to learn, and it's something that we do need to pay close attention to. And for us, normal market segmentation that we used in the past, it really is just a buyer profile. It doesn't tell us much about the guest that actually walks up to us on front desk or makes a reservation at our hotel. It just tells us about different things, where the customer maybe, it tells us the distribution channel that he has booked through, or it gives us a profile of the company that maybe he's working for. But it doesn't really tell us much about the guest. So we have some work to do in hospitality to really understand customer centricity and customer first in that process. The second issue I'd like to point out that we have to face, and we are at a technology event, so that's a good place to start. But the second point I'd like to make is this rapid speed of technological transformation and digital disruption. It is a huge issue. And it again was compounded over the time of the pandemic now, and it has become a real issue. Now, for us hoteliers, oftentimes IT is not necessarily, or automation is not necessarily something that is top of mind, but it should be. It has to become. It is something that will change. Automation will change the face of any industry, including hospitality. So we have to tackle this as an industry. And the third issue that I'd like to point out this morning is really finding and retaining the right talent. Before, I'm going to read this because this is really good and really important information, and I don't want to get it wrong, but prior to the pandemic, the accommodation and restaurant industry was creating jobs, and get that, we were creating jobs at the fastest rate of any sector in the economy. And this is according to the International Labor Organization. Now, all of this then, again, is fueled even more so by finding talent with the right skill and retaining them in our organizations. So it is a real big issue. Hospitality contributes, or tourism contributes 10.4% to the GDP prior to the pandemic, to the global GDP. In 2018, the industry contributed 1 in 10 jobs across the planet. So we are important. It is an important issue for us, and we need to address those. But in addressing those issues, as we go and as we solve these problems, I think the benefit for us is not only, you being here today, us getting together, getting to know one another. The benefit is not just that we will future-proof an industry, but also as we start engaging and leaning into those problems, we're really we're really creating value for ourselves. It will create value in your career path. It will create value for your organization, for your hotel, if you're an owner or if you're a manager. So addressing and investing into understanding those issues is really well worth your time. So I just want to take a moment and thank you and really commend you for being here this morning. Not only have you registered for this event, but you're actually showing up. And I think that really is something we should, I want to call out, because there's one thing of knowing about these issues and there's another one doing something about it. And I think events like this, contributing and participating in your local hotel association, coming together with an association like HSMAI, it really helps the industry to change and to transform. Hospitality has been around for the longest time. It's one of the oldest industries on the planet. It had in different forms and shapes, and it has developed into something very significant. And hospitality will remain relevant. It is not an industry that is going to go away. And I'm sure you have lots of memories or special moments that you actually remember that were created in a hotel setting. Some of your favorite vacations, some of your favorite family moments, some of your favorite, most important business deal maybe that you have negotiated. And there was somewhere a hotel or a hospitality expression involved in this. And so we are relevant. Hospitality is extremely relevant to our communities and to the economy. And so being here today, I just want to commend you. I want to welcome you. I hope that you will really learn a few things over this next 2 days, that you pick up a few tips and tricks that will help you and your organization in the process of this recovery journey that hopefully as an industry we will go on over the next couple of months. So without much further ado, I just want to give you in this next, I guess I have about 30 minutes left. I just want to give you 3 keys. This is out of a framework that we have created for our clients. And like I mentioned, these are things that are very, very relevant, absolutely keys. They're so important. Everything else literally to me moves aside when it comes to those 3 keys out of those 5. And I just want to share them with you. I encourage you to take notes and maybe really take a few things away. I'll keep it as practical as I can, and hopefully I can give you some tips and tricks and tools along the way. So my first point that I think, even as you go into this event over these next 2 days, my first point to you is really considering your customer-centric and your customer-first strategy within the hotel. I think it's absolutely of critical importance. We need to learn how to rebuild our customer experiences. Now, let me just share. I don't have a lot of presentation slides for you, because I think, can you see this yet? No, not yet. Okay, I think you should be able to see this. So this was, now I just need to speak along. So these are our 3 key points. So these are these 5 key points that I mentioned earlier, and out of those, I'll share 3 with you today. So the first one is this customer centricity, and everything is changing, right? What we're selling has changed, how we're selling it has changed, who we're selling it to has changed. Everything about our business has changed. And so making this an absolute key point in your strategy is more important than ever. And I'm making this the first point of my 3 points for good reason, and hopefully you'll see over time what that means, because customer-centric strategy is not just having your customer top of mind when you do stuff. Building a customer-centric strategy is really understanding your customers and anticipating what it is that they want. A hotel or an organization that is customer-centric is not just about understanding, but it's also then taking the next step and taking action, and actually doing something with that knowledge and rebuilding their business around what it is that they have learned about their customers. And this is where I think the difficulty comes in, because as you go down that path, you will realize that some of the things that we're doing in our hotels has to change, has to adapt. And so this is the complexity of it, is part of that. So this is why customer centricity is important, and what it is. Now, I want to give you 3 very practical tips as to how you actually go about this. So how can you rethink about building your own customer experience? These are templates we have available for you. So at the end of the presentation, there is an email address and a phone number. You can just text me 1 word and I'll send them to you, absolutely no problem. We've also issued a white paper with HSMAI. I've written one that encompasses this, and I'd love to share this with you. So no need to take any pictures or anything like that. But the first thing that I'd like to share with you, the first tool that I think is really important, is that you start looking at a customer journey map. Now, I have here a customer journey map that we have built for. This is not for a hospitality client, but it was for a retail client. So basically, a customer journey map encompasses every touch point that the customer has with you as a brand. And as he goes on that journey of making a decision of, I need to travel, I need to stay somewhere. So it's coming up with touch points and then learning how to interact with the customers in each step along the way. So building your customer journey map is the very first step. The second step, the second tool that I'd like to share with you, or let me share, actually, I just realized I'm not sharing my screen with you again. So this is what a customer journey map could look like, where you can see what it should entail. So this is something we have worked through for a retail client, not so much for a hospitality client. So then the second tool I want you to take away is once we know how a customer is planning and going about, and the motivation and behavior, we should look at building a persona around that. So we want to give them a name. We want to really get them to know personally. So we create a persona or an avatar, whichever is easier for you to remember. And that's really important in that process, because then as you begin to really give your clients names and you understand their behaviors and their motivation, you then can start creating very tailored customer experiences that are addressing those needs. And from there on out, you then can also start looking at the metrics that you use for success. because there's no point of changing your strategy if we don't find ways to measure it. So it has a far-reaching process, and there are more steps to it, but these ones are really the key, most important ones. Your customer journey map, your customer persona, and your product development that fit those customers. This would be the first 3 steps I would want you to take away. So you may have some questions and you may think like, oh, but this sounds really complex and very complicated. The answer to that is yes and no. It is very complex, but it does not have to be complicated. So there are processes available, there are ways to do this. I think what you need to be aware of though is that as you discover those things, you have to be ready to make the change within the organization that it will require for this to really come to fruition and bear full fruit in that sense of the word. The other question we sometimes get is, is it not enough to just share use my existing market segmentation? And I mentioned earlier, market segmentation really has been built around buyer profiles rather than guests. So your market segmentation may help you in many ways segment your sales teams and how they approach these larger accounts, but it doesn't necessarily address understanding your customers. So again, there's obviously, I hope you appreciate, there's a lot more to this than what I'm able to share with you in this short period of time. But these are some of the key concerns that we experience as we work with our clients on some of those issues. My second point that I'd like to share with you is automation. So automation is of absolute critical importance. And we're here at technology events, so that is a fantastic place to have that conversation. But apparent reasons why you should consider automation is obviously labor shortage, cost efficiency, and workflow efficiencies. But COVID-19 has actually changed a lot of those reasons. So there was a study from Bain & Co. They call it the Automation 2020 report. And in that report, they basically looked at the reasons why organizations are embracing automation. And prior to the pandemic, the key reasons were lower cost, enhanced performance, and revenue growth. These were the key 3 reasons why an organization was willing to engage in automation. Since the pandemic, those reasons are no longer the most important ones. The reason organizations in other industries as well, the reason they are embracing automation now have become improving the customer experience. So point number 1, what we just talked about, improving business continuity. So because we had all these disruptions with supply chains and things like that, need for easier generation of insights. Analytics, really, really important. It is all about understanding our customer. And the other one from a strategy point of view is just they want to be able to lower the risk that they have in their business. So automation really has come from creating efficiencies to actually help reinvent a business or an industry. And that is really when you consider over these next 2 days, you consider all these options and you listen to all these wonderful speakers, that you really consider how can automation improve my business flow, my business, and help me reinvent my customer experience. So what is information? You've just seen the screen. What is automation? You've just seen the screen. It really is as simple as that. Automation, I include all of it. And my apologies to all the technologists out there. It may be very crude and very simplistic, but really automation is, I would include robotics, AI, machine learning, process automation, all of that. Anything that automates a process, like what I've just shown you on the screen, that is really what it is. So I just want to give you, again, 3 practical things you can do in this process of automation. And some of the things maybe as you have discussions with some of the vendors and opportunities and colleagues over these next 2 days that you can consider. Number 1, really assess if your automation will be a threat at the moment where your organization is. Is it more a threat to you or is it an opportunity where you feel like, yeah, this is really something right now I need to do? Or do you first need to make some other changes within the organization before you can go and jump on that bandwagon of automation? And consider the role of automation in the reinvention of your customer experience. So as you go, number 1, we have to keep the customer in mind. But then the second one you should consider is how can automation help you in that process to deliver a better customer experience. And consider the impact that automation can have on your operational performance and obviously on your business model. So that's number one, this assessment that you should be doing. And then as you go about this, as you have made some decisions, reinvent the business process with automation in mind. So don't just look at an individual process that you need to automate, or there is one dashboard that can help me fix this, but look at automation from a larger framework point of view and build a roadmap. And this will, over time, not only save you time, but it will also help you in creating this strategic approach with your team in this process. So that would be the tip number 2. Consider the broader automation frameworks and how it will reinvent your business or your business process. And the third one, and I think probably the most important one, is treat automation as a significant change to your strategy. So it's not just about, oh, let me change a system or swap one out with the other, or that's not what we're talking about. When you consider automation and as a framework for your business, you must consider it as a major change to your strategy. So you have to plan for it, you have to resource for it, you have to make sure you have you have an implementation process that can be managed by your team. So it's really important that it's that you embrace this from a leadership point of view. So to all your owners, hotel managers out there, and even consultants, it really, we need to treat it as something of utmost importance to us. Again, you may have some questions and saying, oh, does that mean that automation is going to make my job redundant? Well, the truth of the matter is that actually they reckon, there's a automation report out there. They reckon that in the next 20 years, about 50% of the jobs of all Americans will be automated. It's a reality, right? They reckon that right now, 40% of the transactional work in your finance department in the hotel can actually be automated. So will it have an impact on your labor force or on the amount of people that you need? Yes. But if you are an employee or if you look for a career within the industry, this mustn't turn you off, because it is really something that you can use to fuel your growth and to help you grow as an individual in these individual aspects of automation. So will it maybe make some of those jobs right now that are very manual and very routine that can be automated? Will it make those ones redundant? Yes, it may. But at the same time, it gives the people who do those jobs really the opportunity to upskill and reskill. So, and before I go into my third point, I just want to take a moment, and I want to take you back about 21 years, because that's when I landed on the shores of Phuket, and I became the first revenue manager of at the time, it was one of the largest resorts in Thailand, in Phuket for sure. And I was the first revenue manager, and there were absolutely no processes. And I had to spend a lot of time building processes and coming up with frameworks, because I had very little training available to me. And it was just something that I really enjoyed doing though. So then within a few years, it happened very quickly. Within a few years, I had to build the same frameworks, or even better frameworks for the regions, for the hotels in my region. There were 16 hotels at the time. And then about 15 years ago, I joined Minor International in Thailand, which is a major regional player, by now an international player. And I became the vice president of revenue management and distribution. And again, it was a company, we had 3 different brands, and we had to grow. We doubled in size every year, and we really had to focus on building frameworks and structures and training people and all of that, while we're doubling in size almost every year. And then when I decided to set up my own company, it was really because with that heart that I want to be able to reach out to the community of the industry, to say, what can we do as an industry to come forward for independent hoteliers as well as the owners and smaller hotel chains, and help them build this. So I think that's really a little bit of my story. And then in 2014, the president of HSMAI approached me, and she said, I'd like to really start this advisory board of the revenue leaders here in Asia Pacific. Will you help me? And so we built that team, or that first board of the revenue leaders in the Asia Pacific region. And we started to have some really good discussions, and we delivered some amazing conferences that some of you may have been to. that is created by hoteliers for hoteliers. So I guess by now you figured out that I'm pretty much an idealist, and I'm really driven by these ideals. I'm driven by the idea of what we could do as an industry and how we can help hospitality to stay future relevant. And that is why I so believe in those steps. And so as I share with you my third and last step in this process, it is a little more abstract, maybe not as tangible as what we would have seen in with the automation and customer centricity, but it's something that in a lot of other industry has become an absolute critical component in product development, in process development, and even in business model development. And that is the issue of intentional innovation. COVID has forced upon us the need to innovate intentionally, or to innovate, period. We have, in these last 20 months, we have developed completely new business model, if you like. As our economies shut down, as our countries shut down, as our cities shut down, the hoteliers, we got very creative, and all of a sudden we rearranged the kitchens that we had available, the restaurant space that was no longer needed. We expanded this and we built new revenue streams. And that is something that is innovation, and it was forced upon us. But it proved the point that there is room and there is need for us as an industry to make innovation intentional in the process. So it is actually, so this is really why innovation is so important. But what is innovation? Now I want to just put it out there. Innovation is not renovation, right? So it's not about upgrading your product. It's not about making sure that you stay competitive. I think that is important, very important, but that is, I would not call this innovation. Innovation really is a structured process. It is, and I put that on the screen, it doesn't look very structured, but this is what innovation really is. There are different words out there for it. Some people call it, design thinking. Some people call it innovation, disruptive innovation, depending what school of thought you go with. One is Harvard Business, the other one is, Tim Brown and the whole world that he built around that. And these are really the two mainstreams in that regard. But innovation is a structured process. The point here is really that we have to make it part of our strategic approach in hospitality. Particularly, again, it's a leadership issue first and foremost. We need to learn how to do it. So, what it really does, there are 3 levels of innovation that we generally refer to. Mentioned it before, is product innovation. So that would be about in our case, the kind of hotels that we build, but also the kind of great products that we make available for our customer personas that we're building. So this is the product innovation. Then we have the process innovation. So that could be a check-in process. That could be a customer service process. And then the third one is your business model innovation. So that could be working on additional revenue streams for your hotel. So these are, in general, the 3 categories where you go through in a very structured process. You go through those things to help you really uncover some of the needs that you may have, or that your clients, or that the consumer, or the person that is engaging in whatever product, service, or business model, that you really meet those needs and you understand what it is that they're looking for in this process. So reactions when you see innovation happen, and you may have seen that before, is the responses that you say, oh, isn't that clever? Oh, I wish I would have thought about this before. So it's something that you may have done for a long time, and suddenly somebody meets your need right there, and that's innovation. So it's not a renovation. So that's really what it is. And so how do you go about this? How do you bring this into your organization? And the answer to that is obviously there are lots and lots of resources out there for you to learn about design thinking, to learn about innovation, fantastic books, there are workshops, all of that is available. But what we have found as the most successful way of implementing or becoming intentional in the innovation process is really working with someone who comes alongside you, who helps you through the process of workshops and helping your team along in that process, mentoring you through the process of innovation until it really becomes part of your culture, because that is really necessary. And hopefully by now you can also tell that it is a very structured approach to my 3 points. That the first one we have to keep in mind are our customers. That is just absolute priority number 1. The second one, we have to learn to do that with and be empowered through automation. Excuse me. Through automation. And then the next step is really making that intentional innovation part of your everyday culture. So I just want to show you that process now. So we have worked with clients over these last decade in my own company. Before that, even with my I developed it over that time, right? But this is really the process that we're taking them through. And out of those 5 steps, the first 3 obviously we went through today. The one we won't have time for is that leadership transformation, which is a process of really coaching and understanding, and some of the more strategic process developments that is required for the leadership, the ownership of the organization. And the last portion is really the mentorship and the coaching through that process. These processes you can learn for yourself, absolutely. Any one of those, there are enough resources out there for you to learn about it, for you to implement about it. But if you to implement them, but if you want good ROI on your investment, make it a consideration to have somebody alongside that can help you through this process, so that you've got somebody by your side to help you ask the right question and maybe hold you accountable when other things seem to get in the way. So that is really our approach to that whole process. And let me just see. So we have launched a white paper with HSMAI over this in this process to really help the industry develop in these areas. So if you would like any of these templates I have just mentioned, I have just raised my hand on this. Hang on, let me just, I don't know how to do this without. Okay, never mind. I've raised my own hand. That's okay. So if you have, if you would like any of those templates, we have got templates available for you, or the white paper that we're happy to send. We just either send me an email, just put in the headline, any one of those or all of those, it's up to you, or send me a text through any of those mediums, and I'd be happy to share them with you. And with that, we've got another 5-10 minutes, so I just want to open up if there are any questions at the moment that you might have for me. I'm not sure, Vipin, if we've got any questions from the audience at the moment. Okay, Okay, I think that just looking at any questions, if you've got any questions around these areas, I went through them quite quickly, but there are really some keys for us to consider in the industry. Any industry is struggling with the same issues. I'll be very honest, right? Every industry is in the same boat, but we need to find solutions that are relevant for our industry. Okay, so there was a question that says how to predict changes in consumer behavior and habits. Well, this is that process, right? Of engaging, building that customer journey map. You need to look at how does a customer engage with in the process of making be it a hotel reservation, a flight reservation, any kind of, in hospitality, so or travel. So the way to go about this is really to interview. It's not just reading questionnaires that we do. It's not just the TripAdvisor reviews that and though they're important, they're very, very important, but it is really an intentional process where you begin to learn how to notice and also how to track the changes. So obviously it's also a lot of it has to do with clarifying assumptions. Because if you've never engaged in this process actively, I would suggest that we have a lot of assumptions what we think a customer is doing right now. And so I think if we do it for the first time around, it's really about learning how does a customer engage with us as they make a decision on the travel brand, on your brand or for your product or whatever it is, and going down that journey so that we can answer the right questions. Some of the ways is interaction for your, on your social media, the interaction on your website. If you keep having the same questions, maybe it's something that the customers are looking for. There are a lot of sentiments. A lot of companies prepare reports with travel sentiments and consumer sentiments. That is very helpful. But they're all, those reports are very generic. You really need to drill down in your specific business what it is. Another very, very good question. How can we keep pace? How can we keep up, I guess, is where this one goes with all these trends and keys. Well, I think that the keys actually have not changed. The understanding our guests, learning to improve our processes, innovation may be something that we have not considered, but our leadership development, none of that is new to us. But I think to keep pace with it is really engaging with the industry, engaging with us. So to me, a lot of it has to do in your engagement with your local community. So it could be the hospitality association in your destination. It could be getting involved with something like HSMAI. Quite frankly, that was a big reason for me to do it, because HSMAI, you get to speak to the leaders of the industry. And it's not about, they're not trying to sell you anything. They're not trying to tell you this is important technology for you, but it's a robust discussion. It is understanding where we're at from an industry point of view. And I think as you engage in those, you can keep up, but you can also start developing solutions because you work with your community. So we encourage you, get involved in your local hotel association, particularly with issues around your destination. Get involved with a body like HSMAI. Reach out to us how you can get involved, how you can participate, how you can hear about what's happening in the industry. So we encourage you to do this. So do we have, I hope this makes sense, unless we have any other questions. One of the other questions on the design thinking or the intentional innovation we often get is that, oh, I'm not creative. This sounds all very, for a particular type of leader or a particular type of person, and I'm just not creative. And that is a myth. That is a myth. It's not true. It is built in a process. And in fact, how it works is that you have a cross-functional work group. So you get together and you select a problem, or you select a process, or you select just something that you'd like to improve. And you get a group of people together from different points of view around this issue, and you start working through a process. And creativity is what will be the end of it. It is working from the collective genius that is made up in that group, everyone with their experiences, everyone with their expertise coming together and coming up with new and a different approach to this particular process that you have chosen that you want to improve. So that is really the process on innovation and some of the questions that we get. I think it may seem a little bit abstract to some people, or a little bit far, to actually implement into your hotel. These are conversations we'd love to have with you. Because there can be very, very practical considerations. There are very good solutions available. So over these next 2 days, if you want to reach out, just talk to us about some of these issues that you may be facing, or some of those thoughts that you have. We'd love to answer them. So I'm available on this platform that the event is streamed on, and just reach out, and we are more than happy to reach out to you. And with that, I think that's about it from my end, Vipin. Thank you very much for having me today. It was a great privilege to address you this morning, to kick you off into this two-day event. I hope you were able to take a few of those practical things away for yourself and help you shape some of those conversations that you hopefully will have over those next 2 days. And yeah, thank you very much for this session.